Then a couple of years after you started, Governmental Consultant Services started with Bob Vander Laan, the Senate Republican leader, and Bobby Krim, the Democratic leader in the House.
They formed a multi-client firm. So we were, just about the first, but certainly the only one that emphasized law.
Right.
And yes, the firm grew very rapidly, as all lobbying firms did at that time, because there was a great explosion in lobbying activity. What had happened was there would be umbrella organizations. Let's take, for example, the Michigan Municipal League. Well, they had, lobbying activity on behalf of cities generally. But then pretty soon the city of Detroit said, well, we need our own lobbyists. And Grand Rapids did, and this one, and that one. And that proliferated with the colleges and the universities, with the school districts. And so the array of clients just kept expanding and expanding. There were times that I thought there can't possibly be any more entities out there. But there always were. And it's still true today.
Wow. Amazing. Well, this went on. I'm going to really jump ahead. We're going to go backwards in time again in a few minutes. But you get to 1997, 98, Frank Kelly has been the longest serving Attorney General in the history of the United States, 37 years. And he finally says, I'm not going to run again. And that led to a development for your firm. And by the way, I want to ask you, all during your tenure in the House and afterwards, up till 1997, 98, Frank Kelly was the Attorney General. What was your impression of him at that time? And how did things evolve and develop in 1997, 98?
We had mentioned a few moments ago that I had started out with Bill Fitzgerald, and that relationship lasted about 8.5 years. And then the firm, which had grown much larger, as law firms do, kind of split. So I took that opportunity to make the Lansing office kind of independent. So we were our own firm, and Bill Fitzgerald was no longer connected with us, although he and I left on very good terms.
Right.
So then, yes, I had known Frank Kelly, but not well. I had really very little interchange with him. I've gone through my scrapbooks, and I found some photos and newspaper articles of he and I together on the program, for example, at a Fraternal Order of Police event in Ludington. And we had some other stuff, but I didn't really know him very well. But, I knew he had a sterling reputation and also was unbeatable, as I indicated.
Right.
And
except by Bob Griffin in 1972,
yes, correct,
when he ran for the U.S. Senate.
That's correct.
Anyway, go ahead.
So in I think it was the spring of 1998, because I believe that I was in Florida at the time, I got a phone call from him, and he expressed to me his interest in joining our firm. Now, I think a lot of people might have guessed at the time that we courted him. That was not the case. He shocked me by calling me. In fact, when he called me to express that interest, I really didn't think that this would probably go anywhere, because I really didn't think that he was all that serious. Mm-hmm. But then I guess I didn't know Frank Kelly very well, because he was serious. And before very long, we had reached an agreement that he would join the firm, and in deference to his seniority and his reputation and everything else, I said, well, we'll rename the firm with you first. And it was good marketing too.
Right.
We'll rename the firm with you, Mr. Kelly, first, and I'll be second.
Yeah.
So it was his idea, and it worked out very well. He and I had a very good relationship, always have had. As he will tell many of his friends, we have never had a cross word in our relationship. It was always built on great respect and great trust. And that relationship endured until finally, in 2015, at the end of 2015, he decided, he was going to retire completely. But his name and my name are still on this firm, although neither one of us currently have an ownership interest in the firm. Right.
So let's go back in time again, just 8 years. It's 1990. You have had your lawyer lobbyist operation going for about a dozen years here in Lansing. Suddenly there's a momentous election, a big upset win. John Engler, your former colleague in the House, up until that time a state senator, defeated by a narrow margin the incumbent governor, Jim Blanchard, and became governor. What happened from that point on? Didn't John Engler ask you to do something that led to a whole new experience for you that you might not have ever foreseen?
Yes. Well, first of all, when John Engler ran against Jim Blanchard, who was seeking his third term, almost no one gave him a chance of winning. And I guess to this day, I'm still kind of wondering what was going through my mind when I openly endorsed him. Probably the only person in the lobbying community, who endorsed him. And so, and again, we'd always had a good relationship. And so when he was elected, to everybody's surprise, we saw that as opening up new possibilities. Although, not to sound self-righteous, I never tried to exploit that. But anyway, after he was elected, he had a transition office, and one day, this is like in December, he walked into the transition office and looked over my direction. I just happened to be there. And he said loudly, "Well, there's my new Mackinac Island State Park Commission member." And crazy as it sounds, I had never even thought about the possibility of going on the commission with an appointment from him. And so, the minute he said that, I thought, well, yeah, I guess.
Well, of course,
I guess that works.
At this point, you had a lot of experience on Mackinac Island, starting when you worked up there as a student in the summer.
Right.
And then hadn't you become a property owner? And you've been going up there for years. I mean, you really knew quite a bit about Mackinac Island, and you loved the place. So it wasn't like he was asking you to go to Beaver Island or something,
That's true. Yes, I had started working there as a student when I was at Albion, and worked for the Carriage Tours Company. Then after a year doing that, the company just decided that I should be the general manager of their Chamber of Commerce up there. I mean, I was only 22 years old, so I became manager of the Chamber of Commerce. And while my colleagues at Harvard Law School were working on Wall Street, getting great experience, making a lot of money, I was toiling as the general manager in the summer of the Mackinac Island Chamber of Commerce.
I bet you had a lot more fun.
I had a lot more fun.
A lot more fun.
And it also was a good place to make political connections. And for example, I took George Romney around in the summer of '63 to meet the local business community, and legislators would like to come to the island to do various things. I had a chance to interface with them. It was some of those Republican members that I told I was going to be running for the House, and that kind of helped pave the way with the Lansing Party group. After law school and after being manager of the Chamber of Commerce, I did continue my relationships up there. I bought property up there.
What about the Village Inn?
And I got married up there in the summer of 1976. I came back from the Republican National Convention in Kansas City, where Ford and Reagan were duking it out.
Right.
Came back from being a delegate out there and got married on the island.
Wow.
In August of 1976. And then subsequently built from the ground up the Village Inn. There had been a Village Inn, but we built a brand new one from the ground up, opened it, and had other people run it, of course, for us, and enjoyed that. Aspect. And
did you buy or build a house up there on the island?
I also built a house up there right on the beach, a great place. In fact, John Engler had been there a number of times to that house. And so, yes, my connections there were very strong and very deep. And so being asked to, or being appointed to the commission, was a good fit, and I enjoyed it. And then I was actually one of the very first appointments that Engler announced publicly. I think I was among the first 10 or 12. And then at the first meeting, I was elected chairman.
Okay.
Because the tradition had been that the governor's party has the chairmanship. So I became the chairman in February of 1991. and subsequently became the longest serving chairman in the history of the commission.